The 2023 World Scout Jamboree in Saemangeum will proceed as planned, despite potential disruptions due to early departure announcements from several participating countries, following a coordinated government response and corporate sponsorship.
2023 새만금 세계 스카우트 잼버리가 일부 참가국들의 조기 퇴소 선언으로 차질 가능성이 빚어졌음에도 정부의 총력 대응과 기업의 지원이 이어짐에 따라 그대로 진행될 예정입니다. 자, 뭐 그냥 이제 그대로 진행된다라는 발표가 나왔죠.
That's
그래서 이거를
right.
will proceed as planned. 원래 예정대로 일단은 이제 날짜상으로는 뭐 중단이 있거나 뭐 단축이 된다든지 그런 건 없이 it will go ahead or proceed as planned.
Yes.
But there have been some potential disruptions.
That's right.
이게 뭘까요?
Potential disruptions. So if we just look literally at the meeting, a potential meaning there are certain elements or qualities that might develop into something in the future. Something meaning disruptions or something that's not very good, something that might have other failures in the future.
Yeah.
So if you look into the meaning of this, so the World Scout Jamboree is to be held until the 12th. And at the moment, it is going to be held until the 12th, and the closing ceremony will be held on that day. There have been multiple countries that have asked the organizing committee to close it a little bit early than was planned. But the organizing committee had various different contemplations, but they said, no, we will continue as planned, despite many discussions and disruptions. We will continue as planned.
그렇습니다. potential 하면은 잠재적으로 무언가라는 의미고 disruptions는 차질이 됩니다. 그래서 potential disruptions는 이 차질의 가능성이 있었다. 그럼에도 불구하고 계속 예정대로 가겠다라는 얘기가 되겠고요. Corporate sponsorship, or maybe corporate support,
That's right.
financial support.
That's right. So literally it means, in other words, company financial support.
Yeah.
So other companies have been giving a lot of financial support for the whole event to happen. So it's not just the governments from many different countries, but it's also companies giving financial support.
corporate, 기업이고 sponsorship는 후원이나 지원을 말하기 때문에 기업의 지원이 되겠습니다.
Sales and online searching of self-defense items, including pepper spray and expandable batons, have skyrocketed following a spate of stabbing incidents in public areas.
공공장소에서 흉기 난동 사건이 잇따르자 후추 스프레이와 삼단봉 같은 호신용품 판매 및 인터넷 검색량이 급증했습니다. 그러면 이 호신용품이라는 단어부터 좀 봐야 될 것 같아요.
Yes.
호신, 그러니까 self-defense, defending your, protecting your body.
That's right. So it's self and slash or hyphen defense. And so it's actually defending your own self, right? And using different items or elements to help you do so.
Self-defense.
Yes.
So self-defense items까지가 호신용품이 되겠고요. 3단봉은 영어로 expandable batons라고
Yes,
하는군요.
exactly. It could be divided up into 3 parts, or it could also be 2 parts, actually. But it's the important part is that it's expandable. It's small when you bring it with you. When it's portable, but then when you actually expand it out, it becomes much larger.
Exactly.
So it's a thin stick, whether it's made of wood, plastic, rubber, or metal. It's smaller when it's portable, but if you actually expand it out, it becomes a large stick.
네, 이게 늘어났다가 줄어들고 이러는 그 길이를 말하고 있는데요. 그래서 expandable이라는 게 이제 길어질 수 있는, 뭐 늘릴 수 있는이라는 뜻이 있습니다. 바통은 우리 이제 마라톤, 저기 마라톤이 아니라 뭐라 그러죠? 개주, relay 할 때, baton.
Yes.
That's what you use when you pass it on to the next member of your team. 그래서 relay에서 많이 쓰이는 거죠. 여기서는 이제 3단봉을 이렇게 부릅니다.
That's right. A Russian oil tanker in the Black Sea near occupied Crimea has become the latest high-profile target to be struck by a Ukrainian naval drone.
러시아가 점령한 크림반도 인근 흑해에서 최근 한 러시아 유조선이 우크라이나 해군 드론의 공격을 받았습니다. 유조선.
Yes.
이제 이게 무슨 선 나오면은 ship가
Yes.
나와야 될 것 같은데요. 여기는 그 단어는 안 보여요.
Yes, that's right.
What have they said?
They have said tanker.
tanker.
A tanker is a very, very large ship that carries oil.
아하.
So it's a specific type of ship that carries oil. So you would actually call it a tanker or a tanker ship, but usually tanker.
oil ship라고 하지 않고 oil tanker라고
Yes.
여기서 표현을 하고 있습니다. 우리가 보통 이제 뭐 조선 산업을 얘기할 때는 shipbuilding industry
That's
이렇게
right.
얘기를 하는데요. 자, 그다음에는 high profile target. 여기서 이게 어떤 타겟을 말을 하고 있는 걸까요?
High profile means that it is someone or something that attracts a lot of attention. So if it's a target that's a high profile, it's a target that is attracting a lot of attention.
High profile means people know a lot about this person or thing.
Yes.
As opposed to low profile.
That's right. So it could be a celebrity.
Yeah.
It could be someone in politics, someone who knows, who is well known
Yeah.
by a lot of people, and who, as a result, grabs a lot of attention. But in this case, it's actually a target, or who the oil tanker is
Yeah.
actually a target of attention that is well known to the public. In this case, by Ukrainian naval drones, and of course, the Russian side as well, because of what it does.
Exactly. 그래서 이제 세간의 이목을 끄는 눈에 띄는 그런 사람이나 아니면 이 경우에는 공격 대상, high profile이라고 얘기하는데요. 보통은 헐리우드 스타들에 대해서 우리가 high profile, low profile 이런
Yes.
얘기를 많이 하죠. So for example, Bruce Willis,
Oh.
he's a high profile celebrity, but these days because of his health issues,
Yes.
he's keeping a very low,
Low
profile.
profile.
네. 그래서 굉장히 원래는 굉장히 유명한 사람이고 뭐 누구나 다 아는 배우지만 요즘에 여러 가지 건강상의 이유로 인해서 이렇게 뭐 공식적인 행사나 이런 거 하지 않고 그냥 조용히 지내고 있잖아요. 그럴
That's
때
right.
he's keeping a low profile 이렇게 얘기할 수 있습니다.
Major Japanese companies have raised wages by an average of 3.6% this year in a wage negotiation known as Spring Wage Offensive amid unusually high inflation, according to a survey.
일본 주요 기업들이 이례적인 고물가가 지속되는 상황에서 올해 봄철 임금 협상인 춘투를 통해 임금을 평균 3.6% 올린 것으로 나타났습니다. 자, 임금 협상, 협상하면은 talks라는
Yes.
단어도 있고요.
Agreement.
agreement,
Yes.
이제 합의에 이르게 되면 그다음에 협상은 여기서 negotiation이라고 얘기했는데
Yes.
앞에 붙은 단어가 wage네요.
That's right. So wage can be replaced by salary or income, but usually when you say negotiation, it's about wage negotiation kind of is paired up together.
Okay.
So it's a payment of money,
Yeah.
what you pay the workers or your employees. So you're sitting at the table with the employees as well as employers. You're discussing how much you're going to be paid or how much you're going to pay your workers.
Right.
So every year, I guess, or every couple of years, you will sit down at the table and discuss all together. And that's what has resulted in a 3.6% increase on average in Japan.
All right. So they went to the negotiating table to talk about wages. 임금을 협상한 거죠.
Yes, that's right.
It's all about the high inflation and how salaries and wages should keep up.
Yes, that's right. So, a negotiation is actually just a dialogue that usually results in an agreement or hopes of an agreement. Yes.
그래요. 여기서 high inflation 우리가 뭐 고물가, 높은 inflation. 정말 계속해서 우리가 이 단어를 계속 많이 보고 있는데요. 일본에서도 마찬가지 문제가 있습니다.
That's right. Korean archers took home the gold in the recurve men's and mixed events at the 2023 Hyundai World Archery Championships in Berlin.
2023 베를린 세계 양궁 선수권 대회에서 한국 양궁 선수들이 리커브 남자 단체전과 혼성전에서 금메달을 획득했습니다. 금메달을 획득했다. Win the gold medal 이라고 할 수도 있고요. 여기서 뭐라고 했나요?
Take home the gold, or in this case, took home the gold because it's in past tense. But it's actually a phrase that's used widely in sports. Take home the gold, it means that it actually bring home the gold or take home the gold.
Right.
Yes, it means that they brought the gold medal back home to our country.
It almost conjures up that image of having the medal in your hands and going home and saying to your family, I won the gold medal and here it is, I'm home.
We brought the medal home,
그러니까요.
right? Yes.
네, 집으로 가서 이 금메달을 이제 식구들에게 보여주는 그런 이미지가 약간 연상이 되죠.
Yes, exactly.
근데 비유적인 표현이고요. Take home the gold 그러면 금메달을 획득했다.
Yes.
그다음에 여기서 men's event도 있지만 mixed event.
Mixed events means that it's a combination of men and female archers. So you do see archery events at international events where you have one male archer and one female archer playing in the same team. Yes, that you would say it's a mixed event.
No other word needed. No, not mixed gender or anything. Just
Nothing.
mixed.
Mixed. Yes, mixed events.
혼성 경기, mixed event 이렇게 얘기를 하고요. 또 다른 단어가 여기 있었는데 이제 요 양궁에서 쓰이는 단어 recurve라는 거는요. 이제 양궁 경기에서 사용되는 활의 형태를 말합니다.
That's right.
recurve는 그러니까 현재 올림픽에서 쓰이는 전통적인 형식의 활을 얘기한다고 하네요.
Yes.
Typhoon Kanoon is forecast to advance north to reach waters off Korea's southeastern coast, some 90 kilometers southwest of Busan on Thursday morning, packing winds as fast as 44 meters per second, according to the weather agency.
태풍 카눈이 북상해 목요일 오전 부산 남서쪽 90km 해상에 이를 전망이며 초속 44m의 강풍을 동반할 것으로 예상됩니다. 북상한다라는 표현을 여기서는 이렇게 표현했네요. It is forecast to advance north.
Forecast means the prediction. That's what the weather agency is predicting using various weather models. You'll see that. You'll look at the 7-day forecast.
Yeah.
That's always the prediction of what the weather's going to be. Obviously, weather changes quite a lot. So at the moment, they're predicting that it will advance north, which means move north.
Yeah.
Advance means to progress or move. And when it gives you the direction, it's moving in that direction.
Right. So the key word here is to advance, to move in a certain direction. You could say advance south, east, west, north.
Northeast,
Northeast,
whatever it
southwest.
is. Right, whatever direction it is.
Yeah. 북상하다. Advance north고요. 그럴 전망이다. It is forecast to do so. And it's going to pack winds of around 44 meters per second.
This might be the strangest phrase we had that people might not have seen this before. But think about it. If you're traveling, you pack your bag, right? So you have all your stuff in your bag. You've packed your bag. You're bringing it with you. You now have those items because you've packed them. So it can be used like this. Usually you'll see it when they're talking about weather. The storm packs winds, which means it's going to bring. It'll bring that. It'll produce or create those winds. Sometimes there's other phrases that have pack. So there's an old phrase to pack heat, which is definitely like an American phrase, means to carry a firearm. You're packing heat. It's a slang. It's a slang term.
You're taking a gun or something.
You're bringing it with you.
Bringing a gun.
Bringing a gun with you. You can also talk about sometimes things pack a punch.
Which means?
It's quite strong. It has a strong effect. So, for example, there might be you might be at a party. Sometimes there's punch or sangria. Like it's a alcoholic drink, but it looks very light. But what if it's really strong? Whoa, this really packs a punch. It's very strong. Or some food sometimes that can be really, really spicy. It packs a punch. You eat it and all of a sudden, whoa, the effect of the spices really gets to you.
Because I'm so used to saying, packing winds of something, kilometers or meters, whatever, per hour or second, that I never really thought about what this might mean separately. But today I'm starting to understand, that's right, it's like packing your bags.
Packing your bags. You're bringing
You're
something,
bringing
with,
something
you.
with you.
In this case, I think of it a little bit more as it's bringing those wins because it's producing those wins.
그러네요. 우리 짐을 싸다 할 때 pack your bags라고 얘기하는데 여기서는 packing winds of something meters per second 이렇게 얘기하죠. 즉 마치 바람을 짐을 싸서 이제 가져오는 것처럼 이 타이푼이 가지고 올 것이다. 네, 이러한 강풍을 동반한 태풍이다라는 얘기가 되겠네요.
Police are investigating 187 online threats of copycat crimes posted across the country following recent stabbing attacks in the capital region, with 59 individuals being arrested and booked for their threats.
경찰이 최근 수도권에서 발생한 흉기 난동 사건 이후 온라인에 게시된 모방 범죄 살인 예고글 187건을 조사해 59명을 검거했다고 전했습니다. Successfully read that this time around.
Good job.
Okay, so numbers are very difficult for me. Even to this day, I find them very tricky because we have two different ways of reading numbers.
Yeah,
and
right.
depending on what it is, you have to quickly switch. And I guess for me, I'm not quite there yet. It's just one of the things I haven't perfected.
Well, that makes me feel better as a Korean learner. That
Yeah, I've been speaking it for decades.
Right,
but I
okay, that
still
makes me
haven't
feel better.
perfected this one. All right, so let's have a look at some expressions. The first one involves some kind of animal, it looks like. A copycat crime? Is it?
So this old phrase "copycat," like when I don't know if kids still say it, but when I was a kid, like for example, if you told me this morning that I'm going to wear a black T-shirt, and I was like, sweet, and then I did it as well, you could say,
Copycat.
you're a copycat, right? So it's this old phrase, it's when you copy somebody. But with copycat crimes, it's when a crime is committed, it received publicity, and then there's people who want to do the same thing. They want to copy the crime and do it themselves.
Right, so depending on how you say it, if you say it jokingly, like I did earlier on,
Right.
it can sound cute.
Right.
But in this case, there's nothing cute about it.
You'll usually see copycat crimes together, and then you know
That's right.
they're called. There was a movie in the 90s called Copycat, which was about killers and stuff, and copying
about
other
copycat
crimes. Yeah,
crimes,
exactly.
yeah.
It was. I was scared when I watched
아, 그렇군요. 그러니까 따라한다라는 의미가 있어서 어린이들끼리 가끔 이제 농담처럼 내 거 따라했네 라고 얘기 많이 하기도 해요. 그때 이제 copycat 이러는데 자 그럴 때는 좀 귀엽지만 여기서의 의미는 모방의 의미가 있어서 copycat crimes, 모방 범죄가 되겠습니다. Now, if you're booked for something, if you've been arrested and booked for something, what does that mean?
I think what this means is, and the way that this would be used, like in Western countries, I mean, you've maybe seen this if you've ever watched those crime shows or police shows where they bring a suspect into the station and then they say, okay, take him to processing. Sometimes you hear that, to be processed, and then that just means that their information is recorded, they probably have photos taken, fingerprints done, a summary is written about their crimes, so they're in for questioning, and they can stay there for a certain period of time before they're formally charged.
So you'd have to look at these two together, really. They've been arrested and booked.
Right, so you get it right, you get brought in, and then they take down your information. That's how I understand what booking is. You're booked or you're processed.
For this news, you could even take that out, and it would still make sense.
Yes.
59 people have been arrested.
That's right.
You could just end there, actually.
That's right.
이제 그 59명이 검거됐다라는 내용이기 때문에 사실은 그냥 arrested 까지만 해도 돼요. 그러나 여기서 이제 booked라는 게 이제 경찰 조서에 오르다, 기록이 됐다, 라는 의미로 좀 추가적인 설명으로 보여집니다.
The Japanese government is reportedly considering beginning the discharge of contaminated water from the crippled Fukushima nuclear power plant into the sea as early as late August, with the exact timing to be decided after Prime Minister Fumio Kishida meets with his South Korean and American counterparts on August 18th.
일본 정부가 이르면 8월 말부터 후쿠시마 원전 오염수를 바다로 방류하는 방안을 검토 중인 것으로 알려졌습니다. 정확한 시기는 오는 18일 한미일 정상회의 이후 결정될 예정입니다. All right, so the first expression here is as early as something.
So that's the earliest time it could happen. So if it's going to happen in August, it'll be late August. But it might not. It might drag on. It might go into maybe they do it in September.
Sure,
we'll have to see.
exactly.
But if it's August,
Yeah.
it's going to be late August.
Yeah. As early as 이르면. And just a little Korean 101, because just before the break, we had 뭐뭐 하면, and you asked me about this. We have it here. 이르면. So, you know, if it is early would be the literal translation of the Korean.
Okay,
here.
now I can see it though.
Yeah, there
we
you
actually
go.
did just have that conversation. I was
그러니까요.
asking Sue Korean grammar questions.
And I sometimes I don't know how to answer them, but here it is. We
There
just
it is,
looked at
yes.
this. 네, 그렇습니다. 이제 거꾸로 우리가 아까 음악 나가는 동안에 레이 선생님이 이 뭐뭐 하면에 대해서 물어보셔가지고 반가워서 또 거꾸로 한글을
I hear
설명을 해보게
I hear
되네요.
myeon all the time, but I prefer when nang is in front of it.
어?
냉면.
냉면을 좋아하시는
Terrible joke. Terrible joke.
쫄면은 안 좋아하시나요?
Oh, I like jolmyeon too.
You do? Okay.
Yes. I like all the noodles.
자, 그래요. As early as 빠르면 이르면. 자, 그다음에 counterparts.
Counterpart. So, prime minister is the term they use for the leader of the government in Japan, Korea, and America. It's president.
Yeah.
So, Kishida will meet with Yoon Suk-yeol and Joe Biden.
그렇죠. 동등한 위치에 있는 상대방을 얘기하는데 보통은 이제 국가 원수급의 리더에 대해서 얘기할 때 굳이 대통령과 대통령, 대통령과 총리 이렇게 말을 두 번 반복할 필요 없이 그냥 대통령과 그 counterpart, 총리와 누구의 counterpart 이렇게 얘기를 하죠.
Same job, same position, same. Sometimes there's different titles, but it's this. You're doing the same function.
That's right.
City officials in Juneau, Alaska have issued an emergency declaration as a glacier lake outburst flood wreaks havoc near the city where structures have been destroyed.
미국 알래스카 주의 주도인 주노에서 빙하 붕괴에 따른 홍수 피해 우려로 주민들에게 긴급 대피령이 내려졌습니다. An emergency declaration was issued.
So this enables the governor to make state resources available immediately. So things to help in the rescue efforts, evacuation, giving shelter, providing essentials like fuel, heating fuel, and food. Also, if they find that they need more help, then they can request help from the federal government, from FEMA.
Yeah. Emergency declaration 하면은 이제 비상사태가 선언이 되는 걸 생각하시면 돼요. 여기서는 조금 의역을 해가지고 긴급 대피령이 내려졌다 이렇게 얘기를 하고 있는데 이렇게 되면은 그 federal government 연방 정부에서 바로 여러 가지 도움을 투입할 수 있게 되죠.
Like when you declare something, you say it, right? But in these cases, like if someone declares bankruptcy or an emergency declaration, they're officially stating this, and then there's a process. So in this case, it allows then the state government to do more things.
Right.
So that's what it is quite official, an emergency declaration.
It is indeed. And oftentimes you'll have it with this verb issue that's used here as well.
Yeah,
to issue
absolutely.
an emergency declaration.
An emergency declaration or a state of emergency, you'll see that as well. Declare a state of emergency. Then declare will be the verb.
Right.
They have declared a state of emergency.
That's a good point, yeah. Declare a state of emergency or issue an emergency declaration. Now, what if something wreaks havoc?
Causes chaos and damage, destruction.
Yeah.
Major problems. When you see something wreaks havoc, it's causing a lot of major issues. And usually there's this kind of feeling of confusion and it's a bit chaotic. Things are being damaged or destroyed a lot of the time as well. It's like during big storms, right? We can say, hopefully we don't, but we could be saying, soon, Typhoon Kanoon has wreaked havoc on certain areas.
So the image, as you said, is something, really chaotic, maybe breaking, or, there's just a lot of damage made, perhaps, as well.
Exactly. Right. It's not a good situation. There's a lot of problems.
그렇습니다. 뭔가 파괴되거나 무너지거나 이런 이미지 상상하시면 되는데요. 그러한 피해가 이제 나타났을 때 it has wreaked havoc. 무엇이 wreak havoc 했다. 이것으로 인해서 이러한 피해가 발생했다라고 볼 수 있습니다.
Elon Musk has said in a social media post that his proposed cage fight with Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg would be live streamed on social media platform X, formerly known as Twitter.
일론 머스크가 메타의 최고 경영자 막 저커버그와의 결투를 플랫폼 X로 생중계할 것이라고 소셜미디어를 통해 밝혔습니다. 일론 머스크가 플랫폼 X 이름 이렇게 바꾼 거죠. 원래 트위터였는데 그 다음에 이제 막 저커버그는 페이스북, 메타, 인스타그램 CEO인데 둘이 이게 케이지 파이트를 한다라는 얘기는 이제 우리가 앞서서 몇 주 전에도 한번 진짜 이런 게 있을까? 뭐 둘이 한다라고 하긴 하는데 까지만 살펴봤었다가요. 이제 업데이트가 있습니다. Yeah, it looks like it is going to happen then.
I don't know. I
You
think
still don't know?
No, because Elon Musk. We'll go through it. I'll
Right.
go through it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He actually made it even more confusing now. He might need surgery.
Oh, exactly. We'll have to see what the health situation is looking like there. But if you live stream something, what does that mean?
Well, if you can turn on YouTube right now, you can see us because we're being live streamed
Yep.
on YouTube. It's when on a website actual live footage is shown.
그러니까 텔레비전이나 라디오 말고요. 인터넷으로 생중계를 할 때 라이브 스트리밍 한다라고 하죠. TV에서는 그냥
Broadcast or broadcast, yeah.
broadcast live. 우리 라디오도 broadcast live 이렇게 하는데 이제 인터넷 매체들은 다 live stream이라고 표현을 하는 겁니다.
And you can use it as a verb or a noun.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch the live stream or we live streamed this. Obviously, 20 years ago, that wasn't a verb.
Of course. 그러네. 20 years ago. That's not that long ago.
No, we were in university back then, and we never said like,
No.
"Hey, Facebook me that." Oh, he tweeted this. I live streamed that. We
그러네요.
didn't use those verbs.
Come to
Didn't
think of
exist
it.
back then.
그렇죠. 한 20년 전만 해도 진짜 존재하지 않았던 표현이네요. 라이브 스트림 하다, 라이브 스트림이라는 명사. 네, 이제는 우리가 흔히 쓰긴 하지만 실시간으로 인터넷 방송을 하다라는 뜻이고요. Formerly known as is used. What does that
It
mean?
means it was known as that in the past. So I don't know if you remember the singer Prince. He changed his name at one point in time to a symbol.
Oh,
Do you remember that?
No.
Really? I think it was in the late 90s.
I wasn't
I
really
think.
into Prince.
Oh, really?
What
Okay.
symbol?
He just made he changed his name to a symbol. So when people were talking about him, they called him the artist formerly known as Prince.
I see.
And then he went back to Prince before he died. But the artist formerly known as Prince.
이전에는 뭐뭐뭐로 알려졌던 formerly known as something 이렇게 얘기를 하죠.
Korea logged a current account surplus for the second consecutive month in June, thanks to higher exports of automobiles, ships, and machinery, as well as increased dividend payments from overseas.
우리나라의 6월 경상수지가 자동차, 선박, 기계류 수출 증가와 해외에서 받는 배당이 늘면서 두 달 연속 흑자를 기록했습니다. Trade balance 중에서 we have trade surplus and trade deficit. So this one, trade surplus.
It's a current account surplus, so it's slightly
current
different.
account, okay.
Yeah, slightly different. But a surplus is, so in this case, when you talk about having a current account surplus, the country is a net exporter.
Right.
So the current account takes in, basically it records the value of one country's transactions with the rest of the world. So it's goods and services, so trade, but also income.
Yeah.
So wages and investment income. So that's
Right.
why it says dividend payments here. But surplus means you either have more than you. So in this case, when we're talking about trade, we export more than we import. So we get more money. We're
Yeah.
in the black is what you can also say.
Exactly.
It's positive number.
We're in the black, and the opposite would be to be in the
Red.
in the red.
In the red, right.
Yeah.
Which Korea was for a while, but it's starting to turn around now.
Exactly. So to be in the black, a surplus is in Korean 흑자, and then to be in the red or to post a deficit would be 적자. 여기서 이제 경상수지입니다. Current account. If it was 무역수지, then it would be trade. Dividend payments가 뭘까요?
So this is when people buy shares of companies abroad, foreign companies, and then the company makes money. So then from their profit, they give all of their shareholders a little bit of money. Well, maybe not a little, depends on how many shares you have, right? It's like a bonus for owning that company's stock.
dividend payments는 우리말로 배당금 지불이 되겠습니다.
The annual salary earned by men and women in Korea exhibited an average difference of 20 million won, with women's salaries amounting to only 60% of what men earned, according to earned income percentile data released by the National Tax Service.
국세청이 제공한 성별 근로소득 천분위 자료에 따르면 여성 근로자의 급여가 남성의 60% 수준으로 여성이 남성보다 연평균 2천만 원 가까이 덜 받는 것으로 나타났습니다. 여기서 이제 국세청이 National Tax Service, NTS가 되겠고요. 연봉 얘기가 나왔으니까 영어로 그 표현을 보면 되겠죠? Annual salary.
That's how much money you make in a year. Your income, your yearly income. Usually, in Korea, people will talk about monthly income a lot, how much you make in a month.
월급, yeah.
Whereas in Western countries, people will talk about how much they make per year.
Yeah.
They'll give you their yearly salary.
Sometimes you might be paid bi-weekly as well, right? In the West. So it's not always every month that you get paid a lump sum.
In Canada, it's always every 2 weeks.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
그래요. 미국도 그런 경우가 많더라고요. 우리는 이제 한 달에 한 번씩 월급을 받고 그게 이제 12번 받게 되면 연봉이 되는 것이지만 나라에 따라서는 이렇게 2주에 한 번씩 돈을 받는 경우도 있어요. 그러니까 월급의 개념 자체가 무의미하겠죠. 그럴 때는 이제 연봉 기준으로 보면 되는데 이 연봉이 annual salary가 되겠습니다. And annual means year.
Yes.
Right. Then the next expression here is to amount to something.
In this case, it means to be the equivalent of. So as we can see here, their salaries amount to 60%. It's equal to, on average, the equivalent of 60% of what the average man earns.
Right. Amounting to 그러면은 뭐뭐뭐에 이르다, 이만큼 차지한다라는 의미가 될 텐데요. Women's salaries amounted to only 60% of men's salaries. 남성이 버는 돈보다 여성이 버는 돈이 그 연평균 그 소득을 보게 되면은 60% 수준이었다. 그 정도밖에 차지하지 않았다라는 얘기가 되겠습니다.
Cambodia's King Norodom Sihamoni has approved the nomination of the son of Prime Minister Hun Sen to become the next premier, confirming a much-anticipated transfer of power by one of the world's longest-serving leaders.
노로돔 시하모니 캄보디아 국왕이 훈센 총리의 요청에 따라 총리의 장남인 훈 마넷을 차기 총리로 지명했습니다. 이로써 세계에서 가장 오래 재임한 지도자의 권력 이양이 확정됐습니다. 많은 사람들이 예상했어요. 그래서 이걸 영어로는 It was much anticipated.
That means many people have been expecting this to happen for a long time. It was no secret that
knew this would happen.
Right,
Yeah.
people were expecting it. Now, with this word, sometimes we're talking about, say, a much anticipated movie or a much anticipated game. Then in that case, it means people are really looking forward to it.
Right.
In this sense, I can't say that everybody has been looking forward to this and wanting it to happen.
But they just expected
they
it.
expected it to
Yeah,
happen. They
that's true.
pretty much knew it would happen at some point.
Exactly. So generally speaking, there is a positive connotation to anticipate. But in this case, it's more of sort of, we knew.
We knew this might happen.
Yeah,
but
we knew.
Some people are thinking that this will be a good thing.
Yeah.
Because he's younger, was educated in the West.
Yeah, exactly.
Might be more business oriented, might move more, away from China, more to the West,
Sure.
Economically speaking.
Right. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a short while. The other expression I want to look at first is a transfer of power.
So that's when the leadership of a government moves from one person or one newly elected government to another. Usually we talk about a peaceful transfer of power. In democracies, pretty much, in developed countries, we have peaceful transfers of power. In some countries, there is not peaceful transfers of power, and some governments want to hold on to that power, and even if they've lost an election, they won't give it up.
transfer라는 게 여기서는 이렇게 넘겨주다 이양이고요. transfer of power니까 권력 이양이 되겠습니다. 아버지에서 아들로.
An analysis of U.S. census data by think tank Brookings Institution has projected that non-Hispanic white people will make up less than 50% of the population for the first time in history by 2045.
네, 미국 인구 조사국 예측 자료에 따르면 2045년이 되면 히스패닉이 아닌 백인이 역사상 처음으로 미국 인구 전체의 절반에 못 미칠 것으로 전망이 됩니다. This is according to census data. Let's look at that.
Census data, information, data that's collected about the country, about the American people, and about the economy, and this is used for decision making at all levels of government. And many, I don't know if all countries, but many countries do this. They do a census.
그렇죠. 총 인구 조사를 보통 census라고 해요. 그래서 census data가 그 인구 조사 자료가 되겠고요. 그다음에 이제 백인인데 히스패닉계가 아닌 non-Hispanic white people이라는 표현이 나옵니다.
So white people refers to like Caucasian people, which is your race. Actually, though, like the United States Census Bureau, they define white to include European Americans, which is what you'd normally think of, right? Like I'm a European Canadian.
So you would be considered
White. Non-Hispanic white.
Okay,
exactly. If I was American, right. In Canada, I'd be considered the same thing. You're European, Canadian. But also in the U.S., so to be defined as white, it's European Americans, Middle Eastern Americans, as well as North African Americans. So that's
all
odd.
considered white?
Yeah, so that's odd.
Okay.
Hispanic and Latino, these are not races. These are ethnicities. So Hispanic refers to a person who's with ancestry from a country whose primary language is Spanish. Now, a Latino is a bit different. So these are people with origins from anywhere in Latin America, Mexico, Central America, South America, the Caribbean.
오케이. 히스패닉하고 라티노가 약간 구별지어지네요. 히스패닉계다라고 하면은 조상 중에 스페인어를 모국어로 쓰는 그런 나라 출신이 있을 때 히스패닉계라고 얘기를 한다는 거고 라티노 같은 경우에는 남미 구체적으로 남미 출신인 경우는 라티노라고 얘기를 한다는 건데 자 미국에서 이렇게 보면 겉모습은 white, Caucasian이지만 이제 그 Hispanic 계의 white인 미국인이 있을 수 있습니다. 자 그런 사람들은 제외하고 non-Hispanic white people이 차지하는 비중이 점점점 줄어들고 있다라는 얘기죠.
Exceptional winter heat in the Andean mountains of South America has soared to 37 degrees Celsius, prompting local scientists to warn that the worst may be yet to come as human-caused climate disruption and El Nino wreak havoc across the region.
네, 남미 안데스 산맥에서 한겨울 기온이 37도까지 치솟으면서 현지 과학자들은 인간이 초래한 기후변화와 엘니뇨가 이 지역의 최악의 상황을 몰고 올 수 있다고 경고했습니다. 우리가 얼마 전에도 이 남반구 Southern Hemisphere 얘기를 하면서 지금 겨울이어야 되거든요. 근데 겨울인데도 30도, 40도 이런 걸 기록하고 있다. 라고 봤는데 이게 끝이 아닌 모양입니다. The worst is yet to come.
The worst, unfortunately, it sounds like that.
Could be, yeah.
Right, could be. The worst is yet to come, meaning it's going to get worse. How it is now, in the future, we may look back and say, oh, remember that beautiful summer in 2023? It was so nice. Right? If it I can't imagine saying it.
Because right now it feels terrible, but it could get worse.
If it gets, they're saying it could be, maybe yet to come. We haven't seen the worst yet.
Yeah. The more common expression you'll find in books, sometimes on posters, is the best is yet to come.
Yeah, and that's a good thing.
That's right. Very positive.
Yes.
아직 나의 전성기는 오지 않았어. 아직 더 좋은 날이 많이 남았어. The best is yet to come. 이런 말 많이 하죠.
Sometimes people might say it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Right.
In some situations, right?
Sure.
Like things aren't good. It's good. Like it's going to be worse soon, and then we might be able to improve the situation.
Yeah. 뭐 어떻게 보면은 우리나라의 그 액땜 문화랑 좀 비슷한 것 같아요. It's gonna get worse before it gets better. 뭔가 아주 좋은 일이 있을 건데 그 전에 아마 나쁜 일이 일어날 거다. 뭐 이런 얘기인 것 같고요. 여기서는 이제 남미 특히 남반구에서 지금 기온이 이렇게 많이 오르고 있는데 the worst may be yet to come. 이런 상황이 지금 끝이 아니라 최악의 상황이 앞으로 더 올 수도 있다. One of the reasons, according to some, is human-caused climate disruption.
this is just another term that some people use, meaning climate change. It's, disruption. If you disrupt something, you interfere with it. So what this just is saying is humans interfering with the environment and causing changes to the climate.
Yeah, exactly.
They're always coming up with new phrases, right? Because, I don't know. Why not?
Disruption은 방해의 느낌이 있죠. 그러니까 원래 자연 그대로의 모습, 그다음에 날씨, 기후 그대로 이렇게 자연스럽게 흘러갈 수 있는 것을 인간이 초래한 여러 가지 문제들로 인해서 방해받고 그로 인해서 또 기후 변화도 일어나고 그러는 걸 여기서 표현하는데 한마디로 기후 변화입니다. It's climate change, but another way of saying it in this case is human-caused climate disruption.
Right, getting involved and interfering with the climate and causing all these changes. The Korean peninsula has come under the influence of Typhoon Khanun as the sixth tropical storm of the year is close to making landfall on the southeast coast.
올해 6번째 태풍 카눈의 남해안 상륙이 가까워 오면서 한반도 전역이 태풍 영향권에 들었습니다. 자, 영향권에 들다 이 표현부터 살펴볼까요? To come under the influence of something.
Be affected by something. That's normally though when you see the phrase under the influence, most native English speakers think about someone who's been drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
That's normally when you see it. So you may have heard about a DUI before. That's the legal term for when someone is drunk driving.
Yeah.
They get charged with a DUI, driving under the influence.
Right. Under the influence. 무언가의 영향권 안에서 무언가의 영향을 받아서라는 의미예요. 그래서 외국에서는 음주운전을 했을 때 이제 DUI라는 약자로 표현을 합니다. 그때 under the influence가 들어있어요. Driving under the influence. 물론 여기서는 술의 영향을 받고 운전을 한다라는 의미가 되겠죠. But it could also be drugs, for example, and other things.
Even like as a person, like you could come under the influence of another person. Who maybe they're manipulating you, or maybe they're just maybe you just kind of follow them, I guess. But you don't hear it that often.
Good thing though, is it?
No, it's not. Like it's not, and even in this sentence, it's not a good thing because you're affected by something, sort of controlled by that thing as well.
Indeed. Well, the Korean peninsula has come under the influence of Typhoon Khanun. Once again, I'd like to stress that it's typhoon there, and it's going to make landfall.
I think they fixed it. They fixed it.
It's fixed now. Okay, thank you so much for that. So it's going to make landfall soon. It's close to making landfall.
Right. Make landfall means when a storm, in this case a storm, reaches land, reaches the land. They start in the sea, and then they reach the land, and a lot of times can wreak havoc.
Yeah, absolutely. To make landfall, 상륙하다의 의미가 되겠습니다.
Korea added around 211,000 jobs in July, according to Statistics Korea, as the country posted the slowest growth in 29 months since February 2021.
통계청에 따르면 지난달 취업자 수가 21만 1,000명 늘어 2021년 2월 이후로 29개월 만에 최소 증가폭을 기록한 것으로 나타났습니다. 이 표현부터 먼저 좀 볼까요? Add around 211,000 jobs.
So this means around 211,000 people got new jobs.
Right.
They got positions.
So the subject here is Korea, and then the verb is added. But that means basically the people in Korea.
The people in the country in general got this many more jobs.
네.
It is kind of a weird, it sounds natural to me, but now that I think about it, okay, that does sound a bit odd.
And this is quite common in English, but it is maybe a little bit tricky for non-native speakers. Same with the weather as well, because we'll have the typhoon or a hurricane as the subject, and then we'll say the typhoon has hit. The typhoon is making landfall, Whereas in Korea, we'll probably have the people or the region come first. But this is just how you say it in English.
It is, yeah, right. The country added the jobs.
That's right.
But the same thing, though, right? They'll say like a country posted a deficit or a surplus.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so Korea added jobs라고 하면은 한국이 일자리를 더했다 이렇게 직역이 되지만요. 사실상은 일자리가 우리나라에 이만큼 늘었다라는 의미고요. And then the slowest growth in 29 months.
Right, so that would mean that it's the smallest increase A lot of times we talk about growth, but
Right.
really it's just an increase. If you grow, when people grow, they get bigger. They increase in size. So it just means it's the smallest increase.
So there was growth, but it was a slow growth.
Compared to previous months, yes.
그렇죠. 증가하긴 했지만 이제 최소 증가폭을 기록하면서 증가했다. It was the slowest growth in 29 months.
Countries around the Mediterranean Sea are becoming warmer and drier more quickly than most places on Earth, forcing governments to seek alternative ways to procure fresh water, including costly desalination plants and treated sewage water.
지구상 다른 지역에 비해 지중해 주변 국가들의 폭염 피해가 월등히 커지자 지중해역의 각국 정부들은 고가의 담수화 시설과 정화한 폐수 등 물을 조달하기 위한 대안을 찾아 나섰습니다. 이 조달하다라는 표현이요. 우리가 이제 procurement라고 이제 명사로 얘기하기도 하는데요. Ways to procure fresh water.
Procure is a fancy way to say to get something or to obtain something. There is the nuance that a lot of the time when you procure something, it was a bit difficult. It took some effort. Not always,
Right.
but it at times. In this case, it would be as well. It's not going to be easy. It's difficult to get, to obtain fresh water for them.
Right. To obtain, to get, to procure. 뭔가를 구하는 거, 조달하는 것을 procure 한다고 하고요. fresh water가 여기서는 이제 담수가 되겠습니다. What about desalination plants?
Plant is like a big factory, a big place, right? A big building.
It's not something you put in a pot.
No, it's not. I think it's more like a factory,
Yeah.
but they're not technically making a product. What they're doing is removing salt from seawater, and then people can drink it.
Yeah. 여기서 말하는 이제 plant가 일단은 식물이 아니고요. 공장이라는 factory라는 뜻이 있고 desalination 역시 담수화 처리라는 의미가 되겠습니다.
Russia is set to launch its first lunar landing spacecraft in nearly half a century on Friday. In a race with India to the south pole of the moon, a potential source of water to support a future human presence there.
러시아가 내일 약 반세기 만에 달 탐사선을 발사할 예정입니다. 이번 발사는 인류가 장차 달에 진출했을 때 잠재적 물 공급원이 되어줄 달 남극을 향한 것으로 같은 목적지로 지난 달 탐사선을 보낸 인도를 의식한 행보로 보입니다. Okay, so this has been repeated many times in Korean, 달 탐사선. In English, that would be the lunar landing spacecraft.
A spacecraft that's capable of landing on the surface of the moon. When you see lunar, you know it means moon.
But we don't say moon landing? Or can you?
Well, but I wouldn't say a moon landing maybe a
Yeah.
spacecraft capable of landing on the moon, but lunar landing spacecraft.
Yeah. So lunar for the moon and solar for the sun. And
Right, it's when you want to use it as a adjective.
Right. 그렇죠. 달과 관련됐을 때는 lunar라고 얘기하죠. 그래서 우리가 lunar eclipse라는 얘기도
Solar
할 수도
power.
있고. Solar power, yep, solar eclipse. 뭐 이렇게 태양과 관련될 때는 solar, 그리고 달과 관련됐을 때는 lunar. 우리가 이제 음력 얘기할 때도요, lunar calendar라는 말을 하죠. Right, so the next expression is potential source of water.
Right, the south pole of the moon could be a potential source of water. So when you use potential here, it means it could be a possible source. There's no guarantees, like they don't know for sure, but they think it's possible that water could be found there. So always with potential, there's a possibility.
Yeah, exactly.
Of something. Like even if you talk about like a person or an athlete or a child, someone having a lot of potential, it means there's a good possibility
Yeah.
that they're going to be successful.
아주 이 아이는 잠재력이 많습니다. This child has a lot of potential. 이렇게 표현을 하잖아요. 여기서 potential source of water는 잠재적인 물 공급원이 될 수도 있겠다라는 의미가 되겠습니다.
Japan's National Personnel Authority has recommended that the monthly salaries of civil servants in general positions be raised by an average of 0.96% in the fiscal year through March, the highest increase since 1997.
일본 인사원이 자국 내 일반직 공무원의 월급을 1997년 이후 최대 인상폭인 평균 0.96% 인상할 것을 권고했습니다. 여기서 이제 공무원이라는 표현을 볼게요. civil servants in general positions?
That means people who work for the government in full-time
Right.
administration positions.
그래서
Office workers and government agencies.
That's right. So civil servants would be 공무원, and then in general positions 일반직이 되겠네요.
And the articles that I read didn't actually specify. It's just kind of, I'm assuming that's what it means.
Exactly. Now, what about the term fiscal year?
Maybe the spelling is helpful. Fiscal, because it kind of sounds like physical, but it's not fiscal. Think of it as, and it's also known as this in English, a financial year. So it's any 12-month period that companies and governments use for financial reporting and budgeting. So Japan's, for example, is from April 1st to March 31st. So many companies don't, many governments, many companies, they don't follow the 12-month calendar year.
Right. And you just mentioned calendar year there, but that's the one that we normally stick to. And, you know, we talk about, if we say this year, next year, we're talking about the calendar year.
Right.
But if you're talking about the economy, or in this case, Japan, the fiscal year is not January to December, it's April to March.
But it's just for their financial
For Japan.
reporting and budgeting.
Yes.
Right. And different. I think the US is similar to that. It's not January to I can't remember what it is. But right. But if we're talking about the economy and we're talking about first quarter, second quarter, then we're using the calendar year.
그렇죠. 우리가 보통 말하는 그 달력 뭐 아니면은 뭐 연도 이런 얘기할 때 calendar year 1월 1일부터 12월 31일까지잖아요. 근데 그거 말고 회계 연도라고 하면은 이제 뭐 단체마다 아니면 나라마다 조금씩 다를 수는 있는데 일본의 회계 연도는 4월 1일부터 3월 31일까지가 되겠습니다.
The 25th World Scout Jamboree's K-pop concert and closing ceremony are set to take place today at the World Cup Stadium in Seoul after the participating young scouts and volunteers were relocated due to safety concerns stemming from the approach of Typhoon Khanun.
제25회 세계 스카우트 잼버리 K-팝 콘서트와 폐영식이 오늘 서울 월드컵 경기장에서 열립니다. 스카우트 대원들과 자원봉사자들은 태풍 카눈으로 새만금을 떠나 대부분 수도권에 머물고 있습니다. 자, 그래요. 이 K-pop 콘서트와 폐영식, 사실 이제 순서상으로는 폐영식이 먼저 있고 그다음에 이제 K-pop 콘서트가 열릴 겁니다만 이렇게 할 예정이다라는 표현부터 볼까요?
Yes, it's set to take place, meaning it's going to happen. It will happen. We use this term set to, I think, just in case there could be a change. We don't know, and let's face it, with the Jamboree, we've seen lots of changes. So when we use this expression, it's set to take place, it means it is planned to happen at this time. There could be changes, but if everything goes well and it seems like everything will be okay, it will happen there.
Right. So for now, it's been planned that way.
Yes.
그래요. 이렇게 지금 계획이 되어 있고 take place라는 게 일어나는 것이죠.
네.
set to 그러면은 이럴 계획이다. 그래서 일어날 계획이다. 치러질 계획이다. 네, 지금 이렇게 다 계획이 되어 있다는 거고요. Due to safety concerns?
Yes, due to meaning because of, and safety concerns, well, our worries about safety. Let's face it, with the typhoon coming, they knew that they had to evacuate the scouts because it wouldn't be safe for them to camp there as the typhoon headed up the peninsula. So, of course, they were evacuated to various cities, and tonight, hopefully, they will all congregate in my neighborhood, actually.
Oh, exactly.
I live nearby the World Cup Stadium, so hopefully they'll have a fantastic time. I'll be listening to the concert out my window.
그렇군요. Well, due to something, that's because of something. Safety concerns, 안전 우려. 그런 우려로 인해서 대부분 이제 수도권에서 지금 머물고 있고요. 이제 전원이 다 새만금을 여러 날 전에 떠났죠.
A new strain of COVID-19 known as EG.5 or ERIS has been designated as a variant of interest by the World Health Organization, although the public health risk has been judged as low.
세계보건기구인 WHO가 코로나19 바이러스의 새로운 변이종인 에리스를 관심 변이종으로 지정한 가운데 에리스가 공중보건상 특별한 위험을 야기하진 않을 것으로 보고 있다고 밝혔습니다. This is a new strain
Yes, this is a term that we became familiar with during the pandemic. When the pandemic started, I thought, okay, it's COVID-19. And then I learned that there wasn't just one strain of COVID-19, there were other strains, and then new strains appears. There's means new variants or new kinds of, new types of COVID-19. And this one, fortunately, seems to not be as dangerous or as deadly as previous ones.
Exactly. And you just said variant there as well. That's another way of saying it.
Yes.
새로운 변이종, a new strain or a new variant. 자, 근데 공중보건상 위험은 아닐 것이다. 뭐 야기하지 않을 것이다라고 했는데요. 공중보건은 public health.
Yes. We have public health is well, what it does to us as people, to ordinary citizens, to civilians. So when we talk about a public health risk, it's how dangerous it is to ordinary people, to you or I or all of our listeners.
리스크가 이제 뒤에 붙음으로 인해서 그런 위험을 얘기하는 겁니다. 공중보건상 위험, public health risk. 그것은 이제 it's been judged, 판단된다 as low. 그런 위험 수준은 낮은 것으로 판단된다는 얘기예요.
At least 36 people have been killed on the Hawaiian island of Maui as wind-fueled wildfires tore through the area on Wednesday, reducing much of a historic town to ash and forcing people to jump into the ocean to flee the flames.
미국 하와이 마우이 섬에서 산불이 발생해 인기 관광 명소가 잿더미로 변하고 최소 36명이 숨졌습니다. 일부 주민들은 강한 화염을 피하기 위해 바다에 뛰어들기도 했습니다. 자, the casualty count is going up as we speak. So far it's 36 and that is already just catastrophic. But let's have a look at the expressions first. The first expression is wind-fueled wildfires.
Yes, so wildfires are fires that are out of control and started in nature. We have the problem here with, we call them sanpul, the mountain fires.
Yes.
But here, because it can happen in a jungle or a forest, it's a wildfire. And wind-fueled, meaning it's given energy by the wind. There's a hurricane that's passed south of Hawaii, and the winds from the hurricane have given the fires energy. They've helped spread the fires. So if something is wind-fueled, it's being spread by the wind or given energy by the wind.
Exactly. 바람을 타고 발생한 그런 산불을 말합니다. 산불을 영어로 mountain fire라고 하지 않고
We say wildfire.
wildfire라는 통칭이죠. 그러니까 이제 그 wildlife area에서 발생한 fire, wildfire라고 얘기를 합니다. It doesn't have to have a mountain in it. All right, and to be reduced to ash.
Yes, meaning it's burnt to ash, burnt to nothing but that powder that remains after a fire. Yes, so this term ash, if you've ever had a barbecue outside and you use charcoal, once the charcoal burns down, it'll burn down into that grey, white, black powder, which is ash. A volcano will spew lava, but it will also spew ash.
And this expression, to be reduced to something, is also a useful expression to know, especially in literature. You might read somewhere someone was reduced to tears.
Exactly, yes, meaning they've been made into this or turned into whatever it may be, reduced to nothing, reduced to tears, reduced to a crumpled wreck or whatever it may be. In this case, this is incredibly sad where we have this historic town where a lot of the buildings have turned to rubble or turned to ash.
그래요. 무언가로 변했다라는 의미인데 이제 reduce라는 동사가 들어감으로 인해서 이렇게 뭔가 좀 작아지고 위축된 느낌이에요.
네.
그래서 사람한테도 이러이러한 사건을 겪고 그다음에 엄청 울었다라고 할 때 this whatever caused the person to be reduced to tears 이렇게 지금 예를 아까 들었어요. 그래서 눈물을 많이 흘리게 됐다라고 할 때도 이 표현을 문학에서는 이제 많이 쓰고요. 여기서는 reduced to ash, 잿더미로 변했다라는 의미가 되겠습니다.
A 200-million-year-old piece of fossilized excrement has provided some of the earliest evidence yet that modern-day parasites plagued the age of the dinosaurs.
2억 년 전 공룡 시대의 포식자 척추동물을 감염시킨 고대 기생충의 증거가 배설물 화석에서 발견됐습니다. 자, 그래요. 배설물 화석. 이걸 한번 봐야 되겠습니다. 많은 이제 한글 그 신문 기사, 그 온라인 신문 기사들을 보면은 이렇게 똥화석 이렇게 표현을 하기도 하는데요.
I've been excited about this headline, Sue, because I get to say some words now.
자, 배설물 화석 설명해 주시죠.
So, fossilized means turned to stone. We have dinosaur fossils. We have other fossils from millions of years ago. And excrement, another word for poop.
Yes.
Oh, I got to say poop on the radio. Or poo, or dung, or doody, or excretion.
Why do we have so many words for excrement?
Because it's something that we live with every day. Yes, so whenever you're reporting about this kind of thing on the news, using the word poop, for example, which is a very common word for kids in America, you would be seen as being infantile or childish. So you use a term like excrement or excretion or dung, which is more the scientific term or the term used in journalism or scientific papers.
Sure.
So here, that's why we're using the term excrement. It's the very polite and formal way of saying poop.
네. 자, 그래요. 배설물, excrement고 뭐 다른 단어들도 너무나 많죠. poo, poop, 뭐 dung, 뭐 이런 거 다 설명을 해주셨는데 그것이 이제 화석화됐다, fossilized. 그래서 이 화석을 얘기하고 있고 학명이 따로 있습니다. 이런 이제 파충류의 배설물 화석을 coprolite라고 부르는 것 같아요. 그래서 뭐 그런 단어도 있습니다만 여기서 조금 풀어서 썼고. 그다음에 plagued by something.
Oh, if you're plagued by something, you're troubled by it. It's causing you many problems. For example, in the summer, some houses, if they don't have proper netting on the windows, may be plagued by mosquitoes, meaning many mosquitoes come into their house at night and bite them and suck their blood.
그렇죠.
Yes, if we're plagued by something, there's usually a lot of something or a lot of somethings attacking us or causing problems for us.
그래요. 그래서 be plagued by something 하면은 여러 가지 문제들로 이제 괴롭힘을 당한다라는 의미로 보시면 되겠지만 괴롭힘 자체가 사실 그 정확한 해석이라기보다는 무언가가 굉장히 많다, 고통스러운 거, 어려운 거 이런 게 많다라는 데 좀 초점이 있는 표현입니다. So parasites plagued the age of dinosaurs라는 것은 이 공룡 시대에 정말 많은 이런 기생충들이 있었나 보다. 이렇게
Yes.
이제 짐작을 할 수 있는 거예요.
Yeah, and also for the word plague, I mean, you can think of pest. I think is perhaps familiar in Korean.
Yeah.
The French word for plague, which is when we talk about the Black Plague, for example, in the 1600s, a disease that spread
was also
all
a pandemic.
over Europe. Yes, that was a pandemic. So this is where it comes from. But yes, it means they were having a lot of problems with worms.
그렇죠. 우리가 경제 뉴스에서도 뭐 plagued by economic troubles or plagued by high inflation 뭐 이렇게
Yes.
표현할 수 있을 것 같아요, maybe.
The jamboree was plagued by a number of problems.
그러네요. 네, the jamboree was plagued by a number of problems. 그러면 정말 많은 문제들이 있어가지고 그래서 좀 어려움을 겪었다.
네.
이렇게 보시면 되겠습니다.
A woman from Texas in the US was reportedly attacked by a snake and a hawk that fell from the sky in a bizarre incident that fortunately didn't end in any life-threatening injury.
네, 정말 비자합니다. 미국 텍사스주의 한 여성이 뱀의 공격을 받았지만 매의 도움으로 위기에서 탈출했습니다. 어떻게 된 건지는 잠시 후에 설명하겠고요. 먼저 bizarre.
Weird, strange, odd, unusual. Bizarre is one of these words when not just a little bit odd, not just a little bit strange, but very strange.
Right.
Something that you could never imagine happening in 100 million years. For example, I've had some bizarre experiences in my life. I remember one time I came to London for a holiday from Korea. Walked into a theatre to see a production, only to meet a man who I knew when I was living in Japan, in the audience, a
How
Japanese
bizarre.
man in the audience. It was so bizarre. I went, "Are you? Aren't you?" He said, "Yes, I am." How bizarre!
와, 어떻게 그런 일이 정말 오랜만에 생각지도 못한 장소에서 다른 나라에서 알던 분을 한국에서 만나셨어요. 와우, bizarre하다라는 것은요, 뭔가 기이하다. 이상하다가 될 수도 있지만 신기하다라는 느낌이 좀 있을 수도 있고요. 와, 정말 그랬다고 하는 그런 느낌이죠.
Yeah, I think bizarre is interesting for us.
Yeah.
It's not. It can be frightening. It can be horrible. But it's more. It's making us go, "Wow, what happened here?"
와, 진짜 신기하다. 이런 느낌이라고 볼 수 있어요. incident는 사건이죠. 그다음에 life-threatening injury. 없었어요. 근데 what is life-threatening injury?
Well, a life-threatening injury is an injury, a wound, some sort of cut or tear or rip or scratch or whatever it may be that could kill you, that threatens your life. So, for example, if you have a life-threatening injury, you should call an ambulance as quickly as you can and get to hospital. It doesn't mean it will kill you, but it could kill you.
생명을 위협하는 부상.